Will you sit there so I can sit here? Yeah? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
You should be here. You're sitting in the camera.
Ah, I should be in the camera. Okay. Okay. So we're group number 2 of not from Ochtirka, but working on Ochtirka. And
1 moment. Can you hear in the back? Would you mind giving it your
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so, and we were extremely lucky because we have the mayor of Ochtirka with us, who gave us plenty of insight about the city, how it works, what are the challenges. So huge thank you to our mayor. We love you. And we treated especially this city because you gave us this special feeling that probably only a person who lives there and deals with these everyday challenges can give. So thank you. So Ochtirka. Ochtirka is in the northeast of Ukraine and super close to the Russian border, which is not fun for people who live there because it takes less than 1 minute since the air raid goes on, which makes the city extremely vulnerable. At the same time, it's a city that used to produce 50% of oil and gas production of Ukraine. So it's populated, highly populated with well-educated people who graduated from the best universities of Ukraine in oil and gas production.
Yeah, it works.
So the people are the main. I think so. Actually, you point this way. It's connected to violence. Okay. So the people, even though you heard about Ukraine as a bread basket, as a critical raw materials basket, it's really a human capital basket. And we put here the quote from Deloitte study, which says that human capital is Ukraine's most valuable asset and will remain so in the future. So it's very important to look at Ochtirka's development through the lens of human capital and put people in the center of everything we're going to present today. So we put a few people who we just found from the articles about Ochtirka, which gave us a very real touch with the city. So for now, even though we look at the city from the perspective of human capital, it's very much oil and gas city, which is, there is no production in the city itself, but there is production sites around the city. So even though the production is outside of the city, the money produced there doesn't stay in Ochtirka, which is really a big problem because Ochtirka provides all the services and infrastructure to those people who live around, but they still bring their kids to Ochtirka to have education services. They still come to the hospitals in Ochtirka, which creates sort of relationships in which there is no win-win between the two. So instead of looking at Ochtirka from this perspective, we want to look at it like this. So the network of people in Ochtirka and outside of the city who treat this land as if it's a shared asset. So in the long-term perspective, even though we're going to focus mostly on short reconstruction and recovery, we would like to see Ochtirka as the city that transforms from oil and gas city into the active citizen city that will grow into a city with modernized infrastructure and well-being of its citizens in the heart of development. Having said this, we decided to come up with two main lines and avenues to take, the heart line and the power line. The heart line is really about the people and how they feel in Ochtirka right now. So what we can do to make city livable even in this horrible situation. because 10% of the citizens are internally displaced people, and even though it's a really frontline city, only a little bit more than 10,000 people left Ohtirka, which is not a huge number if you look at the statistics. So before pre-war, it was 50,000 people, and now it's 38,000 people. So there are still plenty of people, and we should really look into their well-being already now. And the power line is basically how we can make our citizens' hearts beat with healthier power production in the core of development. And we propose the timeline, which will be recovery, reconstruction, and modernization. Recovery is just urgent needs and urgent interventions from the perspective of well-being and energy infrastructure. Reconstruction is more strategic intervention after the martial law is over. And modernization is since the accession of Ukraine in the European Union, when we will have to comply with all the directives and regulations in the Union. So our hard line in the recovery phase is about improving work conditions to decrease direct adverse health effects on people who work in oil and gas productions. So while during our conversation with the mayor, we learned that 3% of the whole population of Ohtirka has cancer. And this number is huge. 3% is a lot. So when you look at the facts, you're near Russia, you have a city with 3% of cancer, and the only production is oil and gas. It doesn't really look attractive. So for now, what we can do is at least to invest into well-being of those workers. In midterm perspective, we would introduce a gradual phasing of renewable energy industry, which will coexist with the existing oil and gas production for some time, because we know that it's also there are investment cycles which should be followed and respected in this sort of infrastructural projects. And in the long term, we would see Ohtirka as one of the cities that phases out coal, oil and gas entirely and becomes a role model for other cities in Ukraine with regional green energy and considered as a regional green energy hub. And now I give floor to Rens.
So I'm going to tell something about what we call the power line. So we think the people are the heart of the city, but they need energy, and all the strategies that we propose, they need energy to be able to continue. So that's our, let's say, parallel strategy, also short term, midterm, long term. And on the short term, because the city is so close from Russia, the energy independence is really crucial, especially for critical infrastructure. And on the little bit longer run, to make this energy system more resilient, it has to diversify. It's at this moment very much reliant on diesel generators and infrastructure, which is partly under attack. And then for the really long run, we could build this diversified and resilient system in a way that the network is also resilient to handle new sources of energy, renewable sources of energy, which have their own characteristics on the energy system. But starting with critical infrastructure, because that is, of course, what needs to be able to run nowadays. And when we talk about critical infrastructure, traditionally, we talk about these things, right? Like hospitals, sewage, water supply, energy supply, those kinds of amenities and infrastructures. But what we think, and the municipality also emphasized this to us, is that schools and kindergartens are also critical infrastructure to continue, let's say, uninterrupted learning, because the kids that learn, they are the future of this city, and they are crucial. This capacity building is crucial to build also a resilient energy network that we are now, let's say, promoting. So this is what we consider the critical infrastructure in the city. And what you see, also the red dots are the schools, the other colors are the other infrastructures. That is, that's really spread throughout the city, which also means that if you start from there, then you also, let's say, plant the seed for a future resistant energy system for the coming years. And we have been working on a strategy for the different infrastructures. What could be ways to deal with? Wrong direction. And the first part is a diversification. Like, what could be alternative energy sources in this region? What we think is interesting now is it's not on all these maps, but it's here, 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 and here. And it is relatively rich of potential energy. So this is all the oil and gas. The solar hours is quite high on the European scale. Potential for geothermia and soil quality. And here is a part of this Chernozem soil, the Ukrainian soil, which is one of the best agricultural soils in the world, and which is also suitable for food production, but also for biomass production if needed. So we see, let's say, opportunities for diversifying the energy supply. But to deal with that, you need some kind of, let's say, multi-commodity system, a hybrid grid. And we propose to start with small-scale interconnected grids, which can be powered by diesel generators, which are currently in use, but also by PV panels or other sources of energy in the future. And in order to, let's say, make that a bit more concrete, we looked at the different typologies in this city, and it's relatively simple, let's say. So you have this critical infrastructure like hospitals and schools. You have multi-story neighborhoods, which is very limited in the city, and a vast majority is suburban housing. I'm not really sure if it's the right term for this, but it's single-family housing with quite a lot of land on it, and they all, at this moment, already have their own energy system. And well, we have been discussing and calculating about what could be, let's say, microgrids that fit these typologies in order to, let's say, build a system that can be built on a very short notice, but is also adaptable for the future. And we also made some advices, and we're going to do this very short because we have 1 minute left.
1 minute left. 2 minutes. Okay. So not enough time to reveal the secret of the universe. But we'll summarize it, and maybe afterwards we can produce a memo with a bit more elaboration. We formulated 10 action points directed to the municipality of the main actions needed to make this happen. Organizing the jungle of stakeholders, and people working in reconstruction, preparing a joint statement or even a vision focused on a city or a locally led, municipal led collaborative process, and organizing the development network around solutions rather than only organizations or people, but really around proven successful solutions. Beginning with critical infrastructure that's been discussed within a long-term process, and we suggest cataloging the current projects, needs, opportunities, blockages, and focusing on the testing and creating development tools. No need to reinvent the wheel, but of course things need to be adapted to the Ukrainian situation. So for that, we suggest linking to the Association of Ukrainian Municipalities or National Government as a facilitator to support sharing between municipalities to say, okay, this worked really well for us here. We took this solution from the Netherlands or from another Ukrainian city. This worked really well. And developing a sort of hub that can manage the knowledge and solutions that cities have developed. Aligning with the EU Green Deal for accessing funding for redevelopment, this is key. So we strongly suggest aligning the current development standards and approaches. So doing a quick scan of what the current standards are, what the EU standards are in the Green Deal, and working towards alignment with also, of course, smooths the way in the future long-term EU accession discussions. The learning process. So making sure that that what is developed and implemented can be shared, and especially focusing on peer-to-peer learning. So not experts flying in or technical solutions only, but really the day-to-day coaching that supports implementation. And something we also spoke about with the mayor is the possibility of twinning. So working together with another municipality who shares maybe similar situation or context. For example, in the Netherlands is Groningen, which also has large gas reserves and a difficult relationship with the national government, etc. And there we suggest focusing not only on municipal twinning, but also working with local citizen organizations, entrepreneurs, knowledge institutions, and building this kind of long-term stable partnership where you can exchange knowledge and experience and work through challenges together. Yeah, that's it. And wait. Oh, there we go.
Very good. This was the group of Rens, Valeria, Tom, Alexander, and Natalia. Thank you so much. We now move on to group number 4 that have focused on, I hope I get this right, Vosnes-Six? No, I said
Almost there.
The floor is yours, and I'll give a sign after when you're 5 minutes off. Go for it.
Tom, heb je de klikker meegenomen?
Van de windowsill.
Ja.
Hello. Let me introduce you to Vosnes-Six. This is a small city in Nikolaevska Oblast, not far from Frontline. Sorry to interrupt, but we need to have you really scream out loud, because our friends in the back can't hear you. Sorry. Okay. Let me please introduce you to Vosnes-Six. This is a small town in Nikolaevska Oblast in Ukraine. It's around 150 kilometers from the front line, and the main economy composition in Vosnes-Six is agriculture, and also we have a light industry, textile industry, leisure industry, and building materials. Also, we have different kind of businesses, large and small, and also we have trade. And climate in Vosnes-Six is mid-continental. And what I have to say about the population, we have aging population, and they have also 300 internally displaced people, and working population only 57%. It's very low. And another problem that the population used a lot of natural gas, around 75%, and 25% electricity. And as I say, the key problems of Vosnes-Six, this is the aging of the population. And maybe the better is explained from about the problems of Vosnes-Six.
Yeah, we had a few slides on the energy profile of the city. So what we described is that the residential part, the sector of the city is responsible for almost half of the energy use, and both for the electricity and even more so for natural gas. So actually the city is its energy profile is defined by its residents. There isn't any heavy industry. And therefore, this is where we focused in our further analysis. A few pictures to give you an impression how the city looks like. And in the next step, we try to really formulate the problem. So what are we trying to solve? And on that.
So we tried to formulate our problem statement in 2 dimensions, the energy dimension and social dimension, where we have the main demographic challenges, as been said by my colleague. It's an aging population with diminishing share of working population, but also a very low financial capacity of this population because half of the population is on the low income side. We also have lack of attractiveness of the life in the city, but at the same time, low share of community building functions, and they are mostly only clustered in one part of the city, and the rest is lacking those. We have really high energy bills where you see the share of natural gas extremely predominant, and we have high reliance on gas in heating, and same situation in industrial and residential sectors. But at the same time, we deal with an ambitious city that is already looking into implementing ambitious solutions, but mostly in the municipal owned territory. And this is something we talk about later. And the objectives of our research is to propose energy solutions for the archetypes in the city, which we then can replicate on the higher scale. And our approach is understanding the context through these criteria, identifying the clusters, and developing a roadmap of solutions, considering the prioritization and other aspects like suitability, ownership, financing, and impact of those. Our key questions that we want to answer with our research is how can we use energy to leverage for better quality of life in the city? Which actors can be responsible for their implementation, and how can we capitalize on the resources that city and surroundings have? So we've identified these 3 clusters that are mainly identified by their typology, because we have clusters of functions with a mixed use, mostly residential and industrial, but at the same time, they're defined by different type of built environments, different energy needs, ownership, their self-organizational capacity, financial capacity, and availability of space to generate renewable energy. And this is more or less the structure with which we used to work with. We have building type differentiation, where residential cluster mostly has detached housing, industry mostly has row houses, and municipal heart is a mix of different functions, but also a mix of different typologies from high-rise to low-rise. We also have differentiation in ownership from private to predominantly municipal, but also some land which is in private industrial ownership. And in the mixed use, we also have mix of private owned condominiums, municipal ownership, and we have private business owners. Financial capacity, as you see, we're not really strong on that. So we are varying from low to low/medium to medium. But at the same time, we have social capital to work with. And Maxime would introduce you to the solutions roadmap that we've come up with.
So for the solutions, we consider the municipality as our ultimate target audience, and we try to identify solutions for each of those 3 clusters, which would be spread across the timeline when they need to be implemented. So we developed this type of roadmap, which is very busy, but it's mainly, this slide is targeted for the municipality. So we want to have them a full overview of what can they do for each cluster on demand and supply side, and when should they be doing it. Again, if I'm a municipality looking at this, I probably still get scared because it's a lot and it's all around the place. It's demand, supply. How do we tackle this? So we thought we should help them by prioritizing these solutions, and we did it in this way. So on the y-axis, you see the potential positive impact of solutions, and on the x-axis, you see the resources that are needed. So there are kind of 4 quadrants on this chart, which tell you, well, how much effort you need to put in to implement a solution, and then what's the outcome that you get. And with this framework, the municipality can see what should be dealt with first and what can be maybe ignored. So there are sort of 3 clusters. The priority area is everything related to installation. So it's easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of input money-wise, and you get immediately very quick benefit. So that should be the priority. Then there are these other solutions which are, well, sometimes there is low effort but also low output from them, and sometimes there is a lot of effort and then you can achieve a lot of output. But that requires further analysis and further research that goes beyond 3 days of workshop. And then there are those solutions which actually, yeah, you might keep them somewhere in the back of your mind, but it's not something that you should consider immediately as a municipality. And again, on this chart, we also try to break down the solutions per cluster, so you see the different colors. Then we wanted to show municipality a framework of how they can think about the implementation of solutions. And for that, Thijs will present you a few selected solutions from the list.
I'm going to explain like 3 or 4, and one actually, the first one really builds on the last workshop in Rotterdam in June, July, also with the Vossensense, the city of Vossensense, where they indicated the residential blocks, which has a lot of space actually in the middle of these housing blocks that are used for gardening, but also agriculture, plant production. Could you also imagine that you combine that with energy production? So put solar PV in the middle of those blocks. Then we also, of course, looked at how could you do that, because physically it's not a big deal, but financially it would be quite an investment that not all of the residents could kind of bring up. So could you, for instance, as a municipality, start with a pilot project and then maybe could set up like a subsidy that funds part of it, or could you get external investors, but also could you kind of hand out the subsidies when residents organize themselves? So also to start forming collectives of residents that could organize themselves in terms of installing these solar panels, some maybe even in combination with other collective functions. Then one of the other solutions that is more related to the industry is that they now have a lot of individual gas turbines they use to have a constant electricity production. Could you kind of use biogas that you produced from the organic waste from both the municipality itself, but also from the surrounding countryside that has a lot of agricultural production? Can you turn it into biogas that you put into the industrial gas generator, so they have more clean electricity? But also, could you use that when you connect it to the power grid to use that as an emergency or as a kind of as a buffer when there's no solar capacity, for instance? So you could combine those generators to the grid. Of course, here you could say, can you use the investment capacity of these businesses to start generating this model? But it requires cooperation between the farmers and the agricultural organizations and this typical industry. And then the third one, it's related to the mixed use areas, where it's more about insulation and also energy production, where the main question is, do you have the investment capacity upfront to invest in these solutions? And there, municipality could organize themselves with local business and start, apply for funding, or maybe work with membership models that contractors that pay for the renovation, but then you pay like a monthly fee to these contractors. So there's also a business model there to be made. And also the procurement of this typical solution could go through the municipality. So you have the scalability of the solution. One way. And then the last one, and that's more directed towards, for instance, donor organizations within, whether it's the EU. Can you provide already a public facility that provides a warm temperature in the winter when there's maybe a power shortage, but that also can use as a space to build the capacity of the community because of all the typical because when we looked at the demographics, there's a lot of people that are already retired. So could you maybe start training people also to become more experts on energy reduction, on energy knowledge, energy coach, all these kind of typical jobs that you would need if you want to become like an energy community. So that was the last kind of solution we want to provide. And then we have some final recommendations to that.
Yes, so when we were discussing the solutions and brainstorming, there were a few urgent shared topics that we wanted to highlight. And I think those can actually be applied for all of these cities and communities. So there are 4 of them. I think that number 1 is energy and quality of life can go hand in hand. And that was our sort of starting point. How do we solve those issues with a common strategy? And that is possible, as we saw in our discussions. Cooperation is key. So as described by Thijs with the biogas story, there is industry, there is agriculture, they can make some relationships and they can achieve certain mutual benefits, which is what we think should be aimed for. We do want municipality to take ownership. We think there should be a central agency who will drive all of these developments because some of them require a lot of capital upfront. Some of them require certain qualifications and competences, and we need this central entity who will be doing that. But to do that, the municipality itself should also, develop its own capacity, institutional capacity in the area of energy. And with those 4 in place, we think Voznesensk can have a good future.
Thank you very much for group 4. We have listened to Olena, Oksana, and Lidmila, led by Thijs and Maxime. Thank you so much, especially also for these last recommendations that are really overarching, very hopeful. Our 5th group, for those of you who are paying attention, will return to group 3 later on. And the 5th group is going to talk about Venetia. The floor is yours. Please speak up because the people in the back, I promise next time we take a microphone with us, but they also want to hear you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Dear audience, I would like to start our presentation with a presentation of the quiz. So I would like to thank them for the cooperation efforts which made this presentation possible. To start with, I would like to highlight a very important fact in energy industry that most of people working in energy do not have energy related education, like including myself. There are a lot of people from architecture, IT industry, different other philology, I would say, economy, and they all didn't know about energy specifics beforehand, before they stepped into the job. And I guess a lot of you in the audience know that there's a huge gap when you start this difficult profession in order to understand the basics of how technologies work and what benefits they could bring to us throughout the time. And what Vinica showed us, especially in Vinica, it is important that they have a strategic vision of what they are looking forward to in terms of energy. And they also have a donor support, which are looking into investing in the projects. But still, there's one issue that stops them from doing their thing. And this is the lack of people, especially during the war. There's no expert people on the market to cover the needs of leading these projects, which are highly important to build a resilient future in energy, especially during the war. And this is the most important lesson we've learned about Vinica, even though we've done extensive research beforehand. That's why our team decided to concentrate on something very important, is to teach the people energy. And we decided to develop a game that will teach young professionals which are looking forward into energy, but they don't understand what is cogeneration unit, they don't know what individual heating point is, and they would like to know what this technology will bring to us in terms of time. Like, we could think about emergency actions, like buying diesel generator is quite easy. Like, it's also easy to install a PV panel, but we don't know about more resilient solutions and what are the implications of those. That's why I would like to give the floor to my dear colleague Magdalena in order to show you the game itself and the basics.
Yes. This is the wrong one. Yeah, we named our game now, our prototype, the Kielbas Most Flow, thanks to Roman. And the idea is that it will be a game that sparks discussion. So people should come around one table and discuss one local situation and think about the different elements of the energy system in scale, but also in time. As we heard, there is a need for young people to get educated on this topic. We also had discussions about how could we apply this game elsewhere. So it could also be used as a decision-making tool for municipalities. Could be applied to different municipalities, so not only to Vinica, but also applied elsewhere. And there are, of course, 100 different ways how to do this kind of game. And we will show you one prototype how it could be. What we start with this game is always a local situation. So we would look at a neighborhood, for example, and we're missing something here. And we would pick out the most typical typologies we find in the neighborhood. For example, the Khrushchevka's building type, which is Soviet, a 5-story residential building out of the Soviet era, which is very common in Ukraine, but also in Vinica. And then we would have the playing cards, which are the different elements of the energy system that we would then place according to the functions that we have in the scales of the game. So we would maybe start on the block level, think about the neighborhood level, and eventually also think about the city level and how each of these elements are connected with each other. The game would be played in different rounds, so we can move through time. So the first, and I would now give a quick example maybe for you to make it more understandable. So if we start with our typology, the Khrushchevka's, which is a residential housing, and look at the heating system it is connected to. We found out that is a very unique situation also in Ukraine, which is not common here, for example, that they are attached to a central heat system where the boiler house gives the heat to the central heat system, which then is bringing the heat into the houses. But the heat is controlled centrally, so you cannot, as we are maybe used to here, turn down the heat when you want, but it is for the whole block, controlled by the boiler house. And to turn down the heat for the whole building, you could install individual heat points, so then you can regulate it as a house community. This would be then maybe the situation if we look before the full-scale invasion. That would be the first round. And then we wanted also the game to be able to look at the impact of the attacks during war times. So in this scenario, we could say, what if, for example, an attack will destroy one of these boiler houses? What impact and implications would it have on our heating system in that case? In the next round, we would think about emergency actions. So as we heard before, Vinica is working together with donors in these situations, for example, to install cogeneration units, which are generators powered by fuel and gas to kind of be a backup for these cases when certain elements of, for example, the heat or the electricity network are out of use. In the next round, we would look and think about midterm developments. We could, for example, use the destruction of attacks, for example, to think about, can we use this unfortunate situation to already make the system a little bit more sustainable. In this case, we could, for example, are we missing all the cards?
Yeah, I think it's all.
Yeah, there are cards in the presentations that we showcased that will give you the details. Let's just check. Yes, it probably disappeared when we transferred the presentation to the.
Oh man, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
We had mock-ups of the cards that would explain, for example, the boiler house or the that's not possible now. Okay.
No problem.
So you could, for example, install a new boiler house which is not running on fossil fuels, but is maybe running on biomass, and therefore make the system more sustainable. And then there's also a stack of cards which uses energy reduction methods that could be applied all over the game, so they're not really dependent on the time frame, because this is something you can do always. So, for example, an insulation of these houses, which are in Vinica mostly very poorly insulated right now, or the installation of heat pipes, and therefore already reduce the needed energy already immensely. And there are then also options for other cards. For example, we talked with the city of Vinica, and they are investigating right now how they could solve their waste problem by installing waste burning factories, as we also have them sometimes here in the Netherlands, which is good for the midterm, but maybe not a very long-term solution, since we are also looking into circular economies and so on. And then we can also, in the last phase of the game, look into long-term strategies. We are probably all a little bit familiar with options like wind or solar, installing neighborhood batteries, or looking into geothermal potential to phase out fossil fuels for heating, or even using electric cars as batteries to balance out the network. And with this, we look a little bit into the future.
Thank you. So unfortunately, you haven't seen the cards, but we've put a lot of efforts into them. You can see the presentation itself and the cards on our Miro board, along with a lot of research we've done preliminary about Vinica. And basically, the Vinica and its landscape has given us a vision of what elements could be in this game. Therefore, continuing the Roman offer regarding how we can move on after this workshop, we've developed a roadmap which can go both ways. The first way is, of course, to develop the game. itself. Throughout the 3 days of workshop, it's impossible to develop all the game logics, as you know, and to design everything. But what I see is basically to finish developing the game concepts in the following several months. After that, there's of course a play test with interested parties, the young people, the decision makers, the energy professionals, all those people that can give valuable feedback throughout the production stage. After that, the design will come and the cards will be printed in order to play test it in a real environment. And therefore, manufacturing preparation, and this is how games work actually. And the second pathway to develop is, of course, to explore deeper into the Vinnytsia. Vinnytsia is a marvelous region. It has a lot of data. It has energy efficiency manager that's pretty rare in Ukraine, and this is what basically a lot of municipalities have been working on to find such a professional. And of course, they have a lot of data to share, and this data needs to be investigated deeper. Vinnytsia is one of the greatest regions in Ukraine in terms of capacity for mini hydropower plants. It also has been developing some sites for wind power plants production. And these are the options readily available right now for the donors to come and invest into Vinnytsia to provide energy resilience. And there's a lot of talking to be going after the workshop regarding the Vinnytsia and its energy future. But I hope this presentation has given you a glance of success of how it could be. Thank you.
This was the group of Tatjana, Anastasia, Frank, Oleksiy, and Magdalena. And I think you did incredibly well for just continuing. And I promise to look up the website to see the
I'm
cards.
trying, hold on, to just at least have one look at the cards.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec.
Then maybe
We
the
can,
next group
like,
6 can mentally already prepare a little bit.
Look at some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
There
go-
they are.
If you go on
Oh.
back, yeah.
Ah,
Sorry.
okay.
You see the function card, so this would be one example for these types of typologies.
Forgive my competitiveness, but when will I have one?
Here is the one boiler house, for example.
We work together. And this is also one example of the boiler house. For example, there was also the idea that you can turn around the card and you see the disadvantages or the challenges with these types of technologies, or also even the requirements to do so to go into that direction. Same here. And then the installation, for example, is also, there are also cards. Because it was a bit unfortunate.
Well, I can imagine that you wanted to show this marvelously well detailed
Yes,
cards.
the game kind of has mathematics under it, which teaches
As each
players
game.
how to play.
Fantastic.
So the idea would be that there would then also be stats that would show you, is this very effective with the need that we have? So you can also a little bit calculate.
So for those of you who do not know what to do with Christmas, play the awareness game. Please give it up for one more time. Before last group already, group number 6 will has as a case study Klesev. Yeah, I give you 5 minutes time?
I'll do the time.
Yeah, you do the time?
We have 5 times.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. The floor is yours.
We're very efficient by ourselves.
Very good.
Okay. So hi everybody. Great that we are having this final presentation. We worked hard. So classic, mine and shine. This is our slogan, and I guess it speaks for itself. As it reflects that our community is quite special. Our community is neighboring with big industries that are the mines. And here you can see some credo that says knowledge leads energy supply to innovative vision. And knowledge that we gain for the last 3 days together with the teammates, that we gain from the community, looking into
info and data everywhere for this community, we actually came up with the innovative vision, and we came up with the idea that getting everybody on board, industries, business, communities, is crucially important. And that's what we will talk about today, and that's what will be as a platform for all our solutions. That's what we are standing on. Yeah, classic. So here you can see the map, and you also can see that the community is surrounded with the big mines. This land is very rich on amber, on graphite, on sand, on maybe something else, also minerals. And it is quite a big community that unites 10,000 people, and Classic in particular 5. So people do live in the center of the industries working around. And it's an absolutely stunning and beautiful community, full of forest. Forestry industry is active. It has a lot of houses, households that try to ensure the electricity supply to their own houses as well as the heat. It is surrounded by water and lakes that are a bit devastating, as the industries are using that also all the time. And what do we see on the other hand? We see the mountains, the waste mountain of the mining that is growing, and there will be more and more. And this is exactly what is happening with the community, because the mines affect the daily life of the people. And the challenges that we faced, they were much before the war came. So, and that will be after. So also what my teammates will present today will be about what we can do now and what we can do for a long, long run, because this is the environment that people are in. Who was next?
So,
Jose, please.
Yeah. Well, in relationship with the community, there's a codependency in terms of economic activity. As she was mentioning, the main activity is the mining. So, and also, as it has been said, the human resource is the most valuable asset. So there is some intention of mandatory regeneration of the landscaping, so that this can be like some kind of solution in some terms, so the people can let's say, like to keep the people or the population happy and motivated. As you can see, well, here is some kind of effort of regeneration of this kind of waste that is being generated from the mines. But also there are some mutual challenges that has to be taken into consideration. And well, besides the financial incentives from the community and also the industry.
Just for.
Yeah. Okay,
So yeah, so we came to this method as we have these 3 challenges already before this crisis. And there is a triangle, the emergency triangle, and the method from 2. That's some kind of the conclusions that we came up with. How to make the switch into renewable power generation. How can we think of the improvement of the air quality and water sanitation, and we try to combine some of the solutions so that it can be more integral.
Right, just I go a bit back because what is what we try to do actually, because we have to focus on energy resilience, right, for this village. But we also see that air pollution and water pollution is quite dramatic at the moment. So we call that the energy emergency triangle that we try to reverse. And I'm really happy that the previous groups have given a lot of examples that we also have. So I don't tell everything to you, since you already see the possibilities. I do. So this is a lot of text. I will just tell to you, so the energy, the water sanitation, the air pollution, we see that there's a lot of damages on the energy grid, power outages, but the village is really depending totally on energy, also to pump up water, to do the water sanitation. So there's a full dependency of power. So if the power is off, then a lot of other facilities are also down. There is, of course, a centralized state infrastructure, and there's no renewables currently in the city. If you look at water sanitation, it's quite all malfunctioning. The mining creates a lot of pollution in the water, in the groundwater. They're pumping up the groundwater. So also for the village who take groundwater for drinking, there is this big problem of this this competitiveness. The water is also stored underground, or at least not in water towers. So you cannot use free fall gravity for having the pipe pressure. And then the dust from the mine. So about 2.5 months a year, the wind is in this northern direction and giving a lot of dust into the villages. So we look in different directions to solutions, which can be on house level, building neighborhood level, but also landscape level. And yeah, from insulation, house PV, we actually want to go into larger solutions for sustainable. I'm going to explain that on the next one. So if you have a mine, which is a day mine, so they dig out the terraces, we say, okay, let's use the mine and the waste heap and the village as a kind of example of what you can actually achieve. So if you have, for example, a lot of PV panels on the south facing side of the mine, you can generate electricity, and with a gravity battery, so when you have energy, you lift up weight, and when you need it, you release the weight again. You can also plant all the terraces with reeds, so you can have the wastewater from the village being cleaned, and you can use it as biomass for a combined heat power generator that feeds the village. Yeah, so, and also the planting of the dust heap, of course, make sure that the dust is not going into the village. And then you will go into some.
Okay. Welcome to the most interesting part, because I'm going to describe the solution. So the slides before is very important to remember what I'm going to explain right now, because we have the threefold challenges: the energy, water, and air. So this all the nexus problem. So the solution should be in a way to design so that we can tackle all three in one way of doing things. So when it comes to energy, so we have the energy we are going to install in a way through the debris of the mountain. There will be like PVs in the south facing. So the debris, this PV will cover the debris so that it will not blow away in the air. It will be in the community level. Also, it can be installed in the industrial level. This is the demonstration that you can cover this with the PV panel. So and this debris of the mountain is stable enough, so it will be on the top, so it will not go away. When it comes to the water, so right now in this municipality, the underground reservoir, it takes a lot of pressure on the motor to pump the water to the household level. So if you build and install this kind of big pillar and the water reservoir, so the gravity will take the water to the household. So it will not take a huge motor and the energy to pump to the housing level. You can also build this kind of reservoir on top of the debris of the mountain. It depends how they stubble the debris and the mountain. Yeah. Because the water infrastructure in this municipality is very outdated, very old. So the water goes through the pipeline and the water gets contaminated. So in the housing level, there will be require some filtration, and this is not very expensive. So we recommend houses to install this kind of thing. So here for the sanitation, this is called constructed wetlands. In the previous slide, he showed that in the curator, there is the filtration level. Could you go back to the previous slide so that we can show?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is not easy.
yeah, here. So here, this is the constructed wetland. Previous slide.
One back.
Yeah, one back. Here. So from the household, from the sanitation, the pipe goes through here. So if we can build a constructed wetland here, so the level of filtration goes here, and the water will be the ground will absorb the water, and refiltration will happen. And for the air pollution, again, we are trying to build energy, water, and everything based around the mountain and the debris of the mountain. So for the air filtration, because of the mountain from the debris, it pollutes a lot of water, and the villagers have the consequences on their health. So we recommend the mountain plants, some plants that will absorb the dust, so it will purify the air. And also in the short term, in the community, in the household, they can install some of the air purifier filter. Yeah.
So since our concept, 3 minutes, all right. Since we have the concepts of Mind to Shine, we propose the symbolic structure of ascending on a top long-term strategy of creating self-sustaining ecosystem out of mine industry, involving community and industry itself. So our fundamental fix would be first to introduce the low-tech solutions to people that can be implemented within 2 years. They're affordable, they can be arranged by community. So for a strategy, we propose to establish PV plus gravity batteries on the mines and make it fully usable. We propose water nail filters at the home for people to establish constructed wetland with the reeds filters, small water towers, and plant in mine waste heap. The advanced solutions that can go beyond can be small-scale infiltration devices for schools, biomass, HE plant, and grid reconstruction. It takes time, but it is the great investment for future. At the end, you end up on top of the mine with this structure, and the outcome of our proposal would be the collaboration of mine and village as a model for economy, to transform it to mixed-use economy, and eventually propose a recreational mine park for people, which is quite ambitious, but still can be managed. Of course, it all comes from people and from community engagement. Both the behavior change, which is about ADKR management strategy, which contains of awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement. We propose the community education workshops for city, the trainings, and which will lead to activation and empowerment of community, because people are the only ones who can do the real change. As they say, you do not give to hungry person a fish, you do give to the person the fishing rod to catch the fish. So it's all managed by community. And the last, to sum up what we did within this workshop, we went through stages of exploration of the site. We analyzed the demographical, ecological, economical, and technological station in the village. We need to find the needs, which are environmental, air, water, and energy needs. We looked through the methods, which would be the sustainable methods of fixing the station, which would be the affordable method, social inclusive, and environmental. And we proposed the solutions that now should be reviewed by municipality and tested, because even the low-tech small solutions have to be personally tested out. So we expect our municipality representatives to work further on testing out on the site and making the magic out of strategy.
Please give it up. So this was the group of Jose, Daria, Yakaria, Juliana led it together with Sebastian. Fantastic, very multifaceted. I want to come on your holiday trip and help plant those little plants. Last group, group number 3. You will be speaking about Kherson. And please speak loud so everybody in the back can also hear you. The floor is yours.
Okay, Kherson. We as group leaders are going to kick it off and then very quickly give the word to our great group who we kind of proposed a methodology and they really ran with it and came up with something that's just wonderful. So I think they should get all the credits and present it themselves. But I do feel like we owe it to them a little bit to explain the methodology that we gave them, because we got some frowns throughout these days. And I think that's natural, because we asked, our methodology was to look forward 100 years in order to look back to what you have to do now. And on top of that, we also focused on a large-scale industry and their energy use, and not so much on the inhabitants. And it's understandable that that feels a little bit strange, but I think in part that's the result of the group that we are, because we are all architects. So we are not the people who have the technical engineering solutions, but what we can give is a vision. It's something to work towards, something to inspire, and also something that you can use to then reason back to the first steps that you have to take. So that's what we did, and I think we did that quite well. And maybe as last thing to say is that the focus on industries was also came from the work that was already done, because Kherson has been case study in a number of previous workshops in which it did really wonderful work to actually redevelop the city and make new neighborhoods and create wonderful places to live. But as you will see in the presentation, Kherson kind of needed a vision to transition to a more sustainable economy for the future anyway. So I think what we did with this strategy is also very compatible to the work that came before. So,
yeah, thanks. And I'm not going to take a lot of time from our presenters. Just wanna thank to our local representatives, Irina and Denise. It was very important for us to collaborate because we felt that resilience from you as the local authorities, and then we believe that the Kherson then also can be a resilient city with the resilient energy system. So yeah, thank you. And
so, okay, Kherson. As you know, we have at least the most complex situation and the complex city, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be resolved. So as you know, Kherson is from 5 meters from a front line, which is current battling. So, and as you see, it's pretty big. But we started with thinking about what we can have from Kherson and what are the advantages of the city. And these advantages became a part of our context. And the context contains a lot of interesting information about what exactly Kherson have and how we can use it to achieve our goals. But before we came up with main challenges, which we also found in the previous workshop. The first one is like shrinking economy that actually started shrinking much more before the war. So it was a long decaying process in Kherson, which has to be solved. The second one is more for present days, but actually the truth is that right now Kherson in 50% depends on the thermal power plant system. And the third one, and very interesting in our case, it's abandoned industry, which has a lot of potential. But
also, despite the material things, artificial one created by human, we have sources that gave us the Earth. So here you see a lot of data and information on the maps about the sources from whole Ukraine, but we, of course, put our attention on the Kherson and got the thing that actually in the Kherson is a big one potential for biomass, bioliquid, biogas, and etc. And we were going further concentrating on this such of things to provide our vision, as Courtney mentioned, and it would be very interesting for you to see. So the first map that we will show you is exact situation with energy system in the Kherson. As you see, there is a lot of solar power plants going around through the city, but as both very interesting, they are already smart connected to the energy grids, and these grids are providing further to the region. So there is a big one potential of this industry, but still we have dependency on thermostation that is here, and we have a lot of things that actually right now cannot be used, and these things are our industry. So what exactly Kherson has for us? Like shipbuilding factories that right now is not in use, fabric production, sunflower factory, glass production. There is also like all refinery factory that actually is our very big point of interest, and also a lot of building material production. And eventually it was planned to create an industrial park at this point in Kherson too. So we ended up with another one thing that's very important and was mentioned several times in the hours of our workshop. It's logistic. How we can provide our soil fuel to the Kherson and out of it and extra. So we found that Kherson has an airport, but the still one has a potential for ships, has like cargo trailers, and what was very important is a railway system. Next map show you the great one thing that actually covers everything here. It's agriculture. Agriculture in Kherson region, and especially in Kherson Gromada, is very evolved. So you see like all this orange, yellow, and red one sectors is the different types of agriculture, and it's only divided by the ownership. So the most of it is kind of private, and a part of this is about in the commune use, and the few of them are in the government use. And but what took our attention more than these things is that actually Kherson already has greenhouses. Only 2 of them, but we know that we can use the heat from them to provide more sustainable energy to the whole city or factories. And so, and the another one thing that also took our attention, it's a big one based polygon right next to solar plants that it's almost full of the garbage through this whole years. So as you see from Kherson Daily, there's already not space for it. So there's this potential to use biomass not only from agriculture, but also from the domestic waste. And how exactly we can do this will be said by my colleagues in the next part, vision.
So, very interesting part, vision. But before, I would love to say something about. No. Yeah, I would love to say something about our preliminary research. Even though we are architects, we really did our best to figure out what the system is. But I would like to talk about the energy source, which was already mentioned by my colleague, that the main energy source for Kherson is a thermal power plant. And we did some research about the big potential which Kherson has is biofuel. And during our research, we figured out that the processing has some common points in the industry use, and of course the opportunities for bio-based energy are that it will make economy of Kherson more independent. It will make less dependence on centralized fossil fuel supplies, and it will be better for the heating system and energy system overall for the communities. So diving in Kherson case itself, we made this very nice circular ambition map, which starts its point from the production from bio-based petrol and ethanol, and it takes its sources from agriculture. So it can be got from crops and from also agricultural waste, and as well as domestic waste. It goes through all the processing, gives the energy and opportunity for our industry, which will mostly be based on recycling of building materials and production of building materials. And all this system ends up in heat waste, which will boost the agriculture again, and it will go all over. So during our brainstorming, we ended up into two scenarios, which both of them has very good potential. I'm gonna just tell something very fast. So scenario one is local industry reuse, which was mentioned before. We have a lot of industry inside of the city, which is abandoned. So we could use the territory and facilities which are already there to grow really fast. And scenario two is even more ambitious. It's about globalization. It's about making the opportunity to expand for new industries and giving the opportunity for even bigger boost of energy. Yes. So scenario one, reuse, is that all the industries which we're mentioning about, they are gonna be of the focus of us. So we are keeping our main production industries and focusing on waste recycling and biofuel from waste. So we're adding these tiny parts to the territory of the thermal power plant to give more energy sources. Those energy sources, together with our solar panels, will boost the glass production, which was already there, and also the other building materials production. Those industries will give the residual heat, which is shown on the map. And this residual heat will be distributed along the greenhouses, which we're proposing to build more and more. So we could have crops not only in convenient climate, but also in winter. Those crops will give more sources for our biofuel as something. Yeah, so for biofuel production facilities, which are going to be located on old oil industry. Yes, what I was saying. This biofuel will give also more sources for transportation, which is also included in our vision. Yes, some of the examples which were already successful. Drake's biomass power plant, which was transformed from coal-based to biomass power plant in the UK. And yeah, hydrogen recombined stable power plants, also a very nice example. Scenario 2, relegate, bigger one, but it has some of the advantages. Is that there is already a lot of industry inside of the city, and we propose in this vision to expand and to relocate our industries more far from the city, closer to our solar energy belt, which would give the opportunity for industries to grow and to produce more, and also to give the waste of residual heat more towards the fields, so we can have bigger, so we can cover bigger a bigger area of our greenhouses. And yes, the system is quite similar to the previous vision, but it's bigger. And also one more important thing about the logistics is that we are also including the relocation of some some logistic facilities as trains and ports to give more opportunities for importing the sources and facility engines to boost even more the economy of Kherson. Yes, some of the examples. Oh, of course, forgot that we are, of course, architects. And yes, kind reminder that we're architects, and we are proposing a very green, very sustainable story about the reusing old industry area for the greenery. Okay. Yes, some of the examples, sustainability. Yes, everybody knows about the Rotterdam port strategies of relocation, so we could use it as an example. And yes, mini link to our previous workshops that apparently our strategies are aligning with our vision about the new hope as Kherson water hub. But back to reality. Of course, our visions are very ambitious and very futuristic, but we would love to give some points of hope, more realistic points, more realistic steps that actually everything is possible. Thank you.
Okay, so as you first heard, we are looking actually at the strategy for 22nd century. Even though we are actually not even to the first quarter of the 21st century, we believe that it's important to look into the future to kind of like see and visualize what our future should look like in order to trace back our steps to create that future together with the community. So, why is it not there? No, okay. Well, so towards the 2050 year, for the short-term solution, but long-term solution within our project, because we're actually focusing on the industry, and therefore the short term would look a bit longer than when you focus on just the small houses or like the communal aspects. We actually want to introduce a public education and training programs for the people to be more aware of how to use energy, how to consume it, but also how to produce it in their own houses, maybe with the use of solar panels and the creation of adjacent greenhouse connected to the house, but also have our first pilot biodiesel production unit. It could be like small industries where the abandoned industry of like grass production or other power plants could host them. As well as retrofitting some of the existing vehicles, such as like tractors for the agriculture industries, in order for them to use biofuel instead of the diesel as it is now. And then for the midterm, we're looking at the expansion of biofuel production facilities, as well as the way to make waste to energy plants. And here's one example of how this can actually work. So from a worker sorting the waste that comes from household, but also like from agriculture. It is transported to the actual power plant, and then from there on, it goes into this very complicated system and back into the housing sector, as well as other facilities, public facilities, but also greenhouses, and from there on, we create more waste, and that goes back into the circular economy. Yeah. Then later on, we also want to expand our supply chain as well as the fleet for biofuels, and then establish a biomass transport network. So we would want to connect the different agricultural lands together, and therefore it will be easier for the farmers to actually keep their waste on the land. We come pick it up and then take it to the facilities. And then for the long term, it's a full transition towards the bioenergy production, because we believe in the beginning it's a very necessary way to balance out between the bio and also the natural gas, as a full transition is quite hard to implement from the very first couple of years. But also one of the most important things that we want to point out is the co-ownership of industries to kind of like maximize the opportunities for people to have a say in how the energy production should be working together with the municipalities and the other enterprises, as well as preservation of the natural resources. As Lisa was mentioning before, we want to clean out the city in order to leave more room for more natural environment, but also for people to be able to breathe cleaner air and take the industries out of the city itself. So yeah, to like summarize everything that we were saying, this is our plan. So we have some of the no regrets discussions or action points, which means that no matter the scenario or no matter the way we're looking at things, we believe that the relationship between the biomass and the thermal power plant production should be implemented. So therefore, we kind of like looking, okay, how we can transition the thermal power plant into the biomass production, as well as cooperation with the people, with the municipalities, with the enterprises. So therefore, we create this dialogue between all of the different parties interested into the energy transition, as well as the users of this existing infrastructure, and also the creation of events to make the farmers and people participate into this design theories and transition. And some of our strategies are to retrofit the existing industries, as we talked about before, the relocation of the different industries, possibly more towards outside of the city. So therefore, we clean out the industries from within the city to leave more room for people to come and relocate within Kherson, because at the moment there's also a lack of community within the bigger area of the city. And create the international collaboration with parties such as the United Nations or UNICEF, the preservation of natural areas, creating new water systems. Also, as you maybe would know, that the dam that was destroyed back in 2023, we're thinking to maybe the possibility of creating like a reservoir. It's not feasible, so we're probably looking into like a new way of creating such thing. Having expertise, capacity building, cooperating, and nationalize the biorefinery production for a better grid system. Yeah, I'm going to finish. And there's also importance to look further into other aspects of research, such as this unlisted here that you can read yourself. And I think we're done.
Again, group of Polita, Rebecca, Jelitsa Vita, and led by Svetlana and Corné. Thank you so much. Amazing. I always want to sort of compress all these projects into, let's say, a future reality. Before I give the word to the table leaders, the driving forces, Ramon and Gert-Jan, I'd like to ask our state architect to maybe join me here. You are just, I hope you are like myself, quite impressed by what can be brought together in 3 days, both localized research into the reality of particular regions, different temporalities, different scales. I was wondering, could you maybe take us by the hand a little bit on similarities or differences? You and your team of advisors are also looking into the future, let's say the Panorama Netherlands. What are the main differences or similarities that you see through the 6 projects that you now have been bombarded with?
I mean, the similarities and the differences in the projects or between what we are doing here in the Netherlands and what is happening?
The latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main difference is there's war in Ukraine and there's no war in the Netherlands. So I think that is the fact that it makes it non-comparable between what we are doing here in the Netherlands and what is happening over there and what you are sort of focusing on in this workshop here in the past 3 days. And so I'm usually not speech writing in my phone, but I try to make some notes. I think it is especially because now we are already over 2 years trying to collaborate in a group like this on what we started to call sort of the rebuild of Ukraine. And I think it's starting to slightly change into a more sort of professional approach in thinking about network systems that are required to make a next step into the future, but always in a situation where there is a war situation and where also there is a post-war situation. That is also what I noticed in sort of the exercises that the 6 teams have presented over the past hour and a half, where I think the last workshop I visited, I think that was at the Erasmus University, was also very much focusing on the constraints from the ongoing war. And I still remember the fact that one of the teams was looking into the almost like the impossibilities because of landmines that are well, heavily present, especially in the border area, but also in the wider border area. And so if you start thinking about rebuilding, you also need to start dealing with these kind of major effects from the war that will not go away like in 1 or 2 weeks. And so it will last for many, many years to find yourself in a situation which will be safe for people just to walk around there. So I think what I've seen now is like I already mentioned, but a more constructive and professional approach. And it was already mentioned a few times. We are architects. I very much like that phrase because it brings you back to the situation what you can provide. So a situation where you take a very analytical approach to a certain circumstance where all the different 6 different teams have been focusing on come with very local issues, but also very local solutions. And what my sort of take from all the presentations is the fact that you all look into the different time scales. And so we are in the now, we are in the midterm future, and we are in the long-term future. And I think it's really important to always take this time scale with you. And it really helps, and the last group already mentioned that, to look far into the future and then to sort of think back, which might be still very difficult in the current situation in Ukraine, but it can be really helpful because in the far future, there will be all the opportunities for prosperity. And maybe to finish, so the other thing I liked a lot was the fact that most of the solutions are low tech, and also most of the solutions are nature based. And so if that, although we are still in a fossil industry, and as mentioned in one of the first 2 or 3 teams,
this fossil industry with the mining is extremely dominant and might still need to be used especially in the rebuild era. The change towards nature-based is, I think, what the future will be for Ukraine, and where also the Ukraine can build a whole new, maybe extremely future-proof industry, not only for Ukraine itself, but also for the rest of Europe. I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you for your first words of reflection. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask the two leaders forward for some first reflections, Jan and Roman. What is it? It's nice meeting you too. Thank you. Maybe to start off with you, some first reflection, because you have been in the pressure cooker with all these people. What's the first reflections coming up after seeing these 6 presentations?
Well, I should say that the dish is quite tasty out of this pressure cooker, but actually I want to ask the group some of their impressions. May I?
Of course.
Hey, so we spent some time together in pressure cooker. So let's consider us some kind of something delicious. But I want to ask you, just give me one concept, one word you've learned over this period of working together you haven't known before, and you are so beautifully placed on these presentations as aspiring energy experts, especially sustainable energy experts. Tell me what you've learned.
Energy gets.
Energy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. What else?
Sorry, I hear.
Chernozem. Ah, okay. Yes. Well,
fertile soil. Okay.
Since food is kind of energy, Chernozem is an important part of that. Okay. What else? Shall I give you hints? Hybrid microgrids, where they were part of your lexicon 4 days ago. Okay. CHP power plants, are they new to you? Okay. Distributed generation, probably everybody knew that, right? What else? Come on, tell us. Energy balance. Energy balance, what else?
Biorefinery.
Biorefinery, thank you. What else? Auxiliary service. Ah, that's
getting better and better.
Yeah. What else? Come on.
50 hertz.
50 hertz. Yeah. The religion of 50 hertz. Yes. In some other countries of 60 hertz. Anything else? Okay. Look, you've been putting on this slides rather complex concepts that many people are getting after they are going through the at least first course of power engineering, and you mastered it within 3 days. So I think it's time for you to congratulate yourself. What do you think?
Woo.
And honestly, I would love to make a selfie together with all of you. Let's do it together. Come on.
Yes. Go.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on.
Everybody should be in the selfie. Yes. So, like, from my perspective, from my perspective, what I wanted to give back as a feedback into this beautiful group, and what I learned, because I was learning through you, with you, and thanks to you, and I learned a lot actually. And I wanted just to share several things that I got better understanding thanks to you. There is a clear linkage between the energy and architecture. And energy is actually invisible architecture, because in many cases, you do not see it, but the same like the architecture, energy defines life, but also the presence of life defines the concentration of energy. And that's really important. When you are managing this flows of energy, when you're creating these hubs, they are sometimes very defining moments for the beauty of creation that are in your hands, in your brains, in your tablets, in your hearts, in your archicads, and in your workshops. So the thing is, with energy, it's harder to see, and also you gotta take some security precautions and follow the codes. This is the first thing. The second thing, from my reflections, and we touched this during our conversation. Well, some of you already know that I really upset when hearing the phrase "build back better." And I'm really happy that you're not building back better, but you're building forward. So keep building forward. Because there is a saying that the generals are always ready for the previous war. But the architects are defining the cities and the communities of the future. So please build forward. Then also, what is also essential, and what I saw here, there's intersection between economy, society, cities, communities, and energy. This is about the flow. And very often, you only see this flow when then this flow is interrupted. Like the things you are understanding when the energy is gone and you have some stresses in the morning, during the day, and in your work. The same is with the urban fabric. By the way, this is the concept I learned thanks to you. Thank you very much. Keeping these things flowing, and keeping innovating is really essential. So the next step is creating momentum. So what's really important is what happens after you leave this beautiful community and this beautiful workshop, but you will keep creating the momentum of making these things happen, involving stakeholders, involving community, involving administrations, involving maybe some regulators, partners, donors, whatever. But momentum is the defining things. So keeping the flow and keeping the innovating is essential here. What I also learned, that inertia is a thing, you know that, but it's also important that good inertia can happen. So sometimes you would be working with really resistant structures, but when you are training them long enough, they can become your partners, and their inertia will help you in implementing your dreams. So keep finding that stakeholders that would start. And also one important thing that would partially was present on your presentations, but I want to articulate more, and pay additional attention to that. Megawatts matter. What's the megawatt? Megawatt is the energy you don't need to produce. The cleanest energy is the one you are not producing, you are not using due to energy efficiency, due to overall efficiency, and then you're stopping the losses. So megawatts matter. And in this context, consumers, clients, end users, they are part of the energy system because they are your partners and they have the least of inertia in many cases. So consumers are the part of the solutions, and if you're able to bring them aboard, they would actually be pressing some of the elected officials to help implement the projects you're dreaming. And finally, momentum requires people who are committed for the long enough terms, funding, changes of the behavior, and also regulators that understand the need for the projects you are designing. So part of your job, like you educated me, part of your job is not just creating the beautiful projects, but being persistent in educating people that beautiful future with the cities of the future, not better, is possible. So build forward, and thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I really
Give it up for Mr. Thank you so much. Is there anything left to say, Gerard?
Such beautiful words, but of course also a word of gratitude towards all of you, coming from the cold outside into this warm building and kind of seeing the heated discussions in the groups. It's been a very nice experience. I really recognize the looking for a shared language that you described, but also the struggle that groups has gone through. I think a group of Alexia and Magdalena talked about boxing at some point, physical boxing, intellectual boxing, not in the group only, but also in communities of energy. The ÖSBB and the VZE in the Netherlands share the difficulties of organization and going forward. And then it's a discussion on, does it need a top-down directive or older model negotiation solution? I think that's been very interesting to see. It's also good to see that we're part of the same community, the community of 15 Hertz, or the community that we know all around us. I think this aspect has been very valuable in all of the projects. Right? Together, we can work on these projects. There's not a silver bullet, one-hit punch solution. And I'm happy to see that in all the projects. They go towards the long term, look back, they go to the large scale and then go back and come up with these very precise, comprehensive strategies of actions that need to be taken, that can be taken right away, that have an effect on a much longer time span that we're thinking of now. So what you're offering to your local partners, to the communities now, is direct actions to take, but also kind of this moment of reflection, right? And take a breather, which felt a bit uncomfortable in the beginning, of course, because there's an urgency, but take a moment to reflect and think of this long term and see how they connect. And that will work in the 6 locations that you've been looking at, but they all offer methodologies that can work in any other place, Ukraine, in the Netherlands, in Europe. So if we continue with that together, there's so much value in that. There's so much energy in it, and we can support powerful communities to stand up. And I think that's the main outcome of this week. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I'll be closing shortly. Let's see. We're nearly opening the bar. On a formal note, I want to say that you will, of course, receive a certificate, proof in the pudding that you were here. That will be sent, signed by both Roman and Gerjan. But in the honor of the collaborative spirit, I would want to ask for our representatives from the Gerson municipality to come forward and maybe share 1 or 2 insights, remarks, something that you would want to bring home to your community. And I ask Olga to join me to maybe help translate, if that's yes, fantastic. I was waiting for that little nod. What is your name?
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, okay, we need the translation. Please join me a bit more in the spotlight. You deserve it.
Вітаю, мене звуть Погребний Денис, я представляю Херсонську міську раду.
Okay, hello, my name is Denis Pogrebny. I am the representative of Kherson municipality.
Мені разом з моєю колегою Антоніною дуже повезло і дуже сподобалось працювати в нашій чудовій команді, і ми їм за це дуже вдячні.
My colleague Antonina and I are very happy and very lucky to work together with the team, and we are very thankful.
Ми отримали дуже цікаві нові проекти для розвитку нашої громади в результаті цієї роботи.
As a result of this work, we have received incredible projects for development of our municipality.
Для мене особисто цей воркшоп можна порівняти з потужною енергетичним таким розрядом, який може запустити в моїй громаді нові економічні напрямки.
And personally, for me, this workshop can be compared with a huge energetic spark that can ignite different projects in our community.
В майбутньому ми мріємо обрати декілька проєктів і попрацювати над більш глибокою детальною експертизою цих проєктів для того, щоб розробити більш такий точний, детальний, покроковий шлях для реалізації їх у життя.
So the dream of choosing several projects and then work more detail in implementation of this project.
Ми дуже вдячні організаторам за цей чудовий воркшоп, незважаючи на холодну і дощову погоду, але він був дуже теплий.
Yeah, in spite of bad and rainy weather, this workshop was incredible, and they are very, very thankful to all organizers and participants. This huge experience.
Fantastic. My last question is, maybe we've now spoken about energy. If there is a topic, if you would have a golden wand, which topic would you bring to this group or the next group?
Яку тему? Ну, якщо казати об'єктивно, то для нас енергетика одна з найважливіших тем, оскільки Україна зараз знаходиться в такому стані, коли ворог постійно її атакує, і ми маємо постійно про це думати і розвивати енергетичний сектор таким чином, щоб ворог закладав якомога для нього більше зусиль, щоб вибивати нас з колії, скажімо.
So frankly speaking, energy is of special importance for us because we are now in a position when our enemy constantly attacks us and our energy system. So we would like to work more in this direction.
Okay, fantastic. Then we're on the right road. Thank you so much for joining us. Please. Yeah, I will. Okay, now I am closing. I have some closing remarks. That's without Sophia and her colleagues of Microlab, we wouldn't be here. So thank you to them. Of course, all the experts, you, the participants. Again, I've learned a lot. I want to compress all your thoughts, both in backcasting and local, and community and industry, and so on and so forth. Very inspiring to move indeed further forward together. Participants, experts, Gert-Jan, the representatives of Kherson, Kiev, and Olik. Achtirka, thank you. Then, of course, Olga, thank you so much for all your efforts in translating over the last 3 days. Yes, okay, so I have to say one more time that all of this is organized with support by the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and of Ukraine. So the both embassies, thank you so much. Our supporters of the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science, UN, I already mentioned, Delta Metropole Association and the Board of Governmental Advisors, EABR, and Restart. Now, before we go to the bar, which is on the 11th floor up, don't forget your stuff because we can't go back down. So take everything, coats, bags. There's a huge ambition to have a group photo. So that's my last remark. All join me on the stage here, and then we will make a group photo. Yes, you're right, but we are running very much out of time. Please go ahead, pose your question.
Thank you. My name is Mike Beria. I'm the chairman for the Alliance for Bio-Based Construction in Ukraine. And I wonder if the architects here look into megawatts in their design for buildings and homes in order to keep the energy requirement for heating and cooling homes to a minimum by using bio-based materials.
Who of the groups was talking about behavioral influences and or spatial typologies that take into consideration the megawatts? Yes, please. Join me here.
Well, I cannot say we really discussed the technicality of these solutions, but in our Voznesensk Hromada, we understood that there is a big potential of using the agricultural capacity around the city in our Hromada to produce bio-based materials that will be used for the locally sourced bio-based materials to be used for the retrofitting of the housing sector, and make sure that we are not just making our energy efficiency improved, but also make sure that the material cycle is diminished, and that we are not just having cooling and heating effects, but also breathing walls of our houses. So this is something we took into account. And we definitely, through the energy hub that we showed in our case, we wanted to say that behavioral change is the key. And we see a lot of potential in attracting experts to educate local educators, to make sure that we are targeting residential sector, but also small businesses and industries for learning how to improve their demand patterns, but also to ensure that we stimulate the energy audit that can provide tailored solutions for them. So that's the contribution from our side. Thank you very much.
The gentleman is absolutely right. Is there a burning question that needs to be posed now? Well, don't be shy. If not, we join in the bar and we can have collaborative conversations there. But not without, sorry? But not without the picture, exactly. Please come forward. The tall people, like 2 meters in the back, 190 in the front. Then we go to 180. I think we need. I think we need to come a little bit forward. Yes, yeah. Somebody's going to very long time. You you should go.